First, you need to start by finding the Behavioural Observation Tool app, which is abbreviated to BOT. Click on that and it will open the main menu. You may notice that there's already settings in here, so you can either add a new one or you can delete the settings and start from scratch, which is probably easier. So if you long press what's there already and delete settings, and then what you want to do is edit these settings and personalize it to your ethogram. So if you long press, then you click on edit settings. So I would suggest you name it something such as your name, OBS, and you can call it whatever you want. It makes no difference really, it's just something to easily identify. So you need to put in here the session length. I would recommend 30 minutes for an observation, but it's up to you how long that is. Interval, you can delete that because we're doing a continuous, we don't need sample intervals. I would suggest leaving flash ticked, and for some reason it seems to be different versions of the app. You can set it to vibrate. If that's the case, I would set it to vibrate as well, and it will do that after the observation is finished. I would change the font size to make it a bit larger so it's easier to see, so 25, 30, something like that. Okay. You can leave tally on new line, leave durations overlap, leave columns subject. So if you come down to subjects, you'll see that there's observed and control. Now you need to delete the control, otherwise it becomes a bit confusing. So if you long press control, obviously you get the option to delete it, so just press that. So now you should only see observed under the subjects. And if we come down again, we've got categories, where you'll see on task and off task, which are the default categories. So obviously this is where you'll put in your categories for your ethogram. So if you long press any of those categories, you get the option to delete or edit. So obviously you just want edit. And you can call the categories whatever you want, obviously depending on your ethogram. So I'm just going to call this one movement. What you must remember when doing continuous is that you click this box that says duration. If you don't, it won't work. So you need to double check that you've done that. You can change the colour if you want. It may make it a little bit easier when you're completing your ethogram if you do. So obviously you just want to go through and edit those, edit them to whatever you want. So let's call this one feeding. Again, making sure to tick that duration box and set it to a different colour. Now if you want to put new categories in, which obviously you will do because you're going to need, I would suggest 10 categories. So you want to just press the add button, put in another category. We'll call this one social. Again, we've got duration and change the colour. I'm just going to add in here out of sight, change the colour, and I'm going to add in other as well. And you need to make sure that you add both of these into your ethogram. Remembering to click that duration box, press that green button to change the colour, OK. Now once you're happy that you've got all your categories in there, you simply press the create button in the bottom right hand corner and it'll take you back to your menu. So here you'll see where it says Nathan OBS, so that'll be whatever you've called your settings, and it'll have your categories underneath in brackets. If for whatever reason you need to make any changes, if you've forgotten to put one in or there's a typo, so you can just long press and go to edit settings and you can make any changes you need to on there and just click save. So when you're ready to complete your ethogram, you just click on your settings once and it will open as you can see here. Okay. Now what you need to double check is under each category you have that little timer, which at the moment is currently set to 0, and obviously as we go through the ethogram that will start counting up. If you don't see that timer, it means you've forgotten to check the duration box, which means you need to go back to your settings, edit those categories and make sure you tick that duration box. So when you're ready to start your ethogram, you will click the start button in the bottom left hand corner and immediately watch your animal and click the button that corresponds to the behaviour they are performing. So for example, I'm going to watch my animal. I press the start button and immediately press movement. You'll see there's a 1 in the bracket, which is the frequency that behaviour has been seen, and the clock is starting to tick. So it's counting the duration of that bout of behaviour. And in the bottom right hand corner here, you will see the remaining time on your ethogram. Now all you do is watch your animal for the remainder of that 30 minutes, and every time it starts a different behaviour you simply press the button. So for example, if my animal started feeding, I would press that, and you will see that the clock on movement has stopped and the feeding has started. So it records start time, end time, frequency and duration. If my animal starts moving, obviously I click the movement button again, and you'll see that that clock starts ticking and the feeding one stopped, and it's taken the frequency to 2. And you will simply go through this for your full ethogram. So just clicking on the corresponding category, so for example social, and so on and so forth. And that timer will count down in the bottom right hand corner, and when that gets to 30, your tablet should flash or vibrate, and that will signal at the end of the ethogram. Now I'm just going to pause this just so I can show you the next step. So what you need to do, in this top right corner, click that little piece of paper with the arrow pointing to it, and you need to send this to yourself. Now you need to make sure you tick all options. Again, I think it varies depending on the version of the app you're using, but you definitely want to make sure you've got summary and raw log, and I say any other options, just tick them. Then click the send button, okay, and share with Gmail. If it's not selected, just select it and obviously click just once. So here you will type in your address. I'm just going to put mine in. So type in either your college email or your personal email. What I would also suggest is in the subject is just put in the date that you've carried out that ethogram, so you can identify which one it is. So I'm just going to put today's date in there, and then obviously send that to yourself. Now you should receive an email with those spreadsheets with all the data. You can either print them off and put them in a file, because we'll be using them when we come to look at the data, or you can keep them in your email, but just make sure you know exactly where they are and that it's not going to go missing. Okay, so obviously we can go back into our main menu. When you are ready to do another ethogram the following day or later on that same day, if you just click Nathan OBS, obviously your OBS, it will ask you if you want to resume the old session or start a new session. Now I'm going to click start new session, and you can see that that's erased all the data. So it's really important that you send the data to yourself before you start a new session, otherwise you will lose anything. And it's as easy as that.